Call of Duty Black Ops 7 multiplayer. Wow. And that's not a good wow. The hype I had coming into this beta is one of the lowest I've had in years for any Call of Duty title, and after playing it, well, it pretty much confirmed everything that I thought ahead of going into it, and that was, I don't think I'll be playing a lot of Call of Duty this year. So let's break down what I like and don't like about Black Ops 7's multiplayer. We'll start off with just typically how the game feels as a whole. Well, the movement of it, I actually don't mind all that much. They've obviously toned down Omni movement as of what it was to Black Ops 6. It feels a lot less floaty, and the removal of attack sprint for me is a big win, just having one sort of sprint speed. I'm all good with. However, the biggest movement thing that they've hinged Black Ops 7 on is this idea of wall jumping, and well, I can't see past this being anything but a gimmick, really. I don't get why we've needed it. I don't get why they've added it. If they want to do a futuristic game, why not just go the whole hog and add jetpacks in? I don't get why we have this thing of wall jumping. And to prove it's just a gimmick, it's not actually even in Warzone. It's literally just a multiplayer thing. So, therefore, their biggest movement hinge thing that they're hinging this full game on isn't actually all that great. Secondly, about the movement, it actually feels pretty awful unless you run dexterity, which allows you to slide in ADS and all that, and actually allows the movement to feel very fluid. And once again, it means that the gatekeeping movement behind perks, which is kind of pointless. Just make that movement. Why have dedicated perks? Like, give us actually freedom to choose what we want to use as perks, rather than having to run dexterity, because that's the only way the movement feels good. I don't get why it's locked behind a perk, once again. Obviously, it's a first-person shooter, so how do the guns feel? Well, for the ones that I've used, they actually feel pretty good. I don't really see an awful lot wrong with them. It's a Call of Duty game. There's no recoil on any of these weapons. There's not really much weapon blur or anything like that. So yeah, standard COD really. Onto the maps, and they're actually not that bad for the most part. I know there's going to be like 18 maps at launch, which is very impressive for a modern day Call of Duty. And the ones in the beta felt good. The colour palette looks like it's actually a Treyarch game for a change. You know, it's very vibrant. And these maps, to be fair, wouldn't look out of place since being like Cold War, which I was actually a big fan of. So the maps actually look decent and colourful, rather than this sort of washed out colour palette that we've had from Call of Duty in the past few years. Now, one change to Black Ops 7 is that the doors on the maps are not actually controllable by the person. They are just open and close automatically. However, I cannot see the point of these doors. They're a bit naff, really, for the most part. I will say that these doors kind of give audio cues to people that are sort of like camping in buildings and stuff like that, 'cause you can hear them open, you can hear them close, and also they're just, I don't know, I don't see the point of them. I get, like, you're trying to reduce the manual door aspect of it and all that kind of stuff, and that's great, but why not just get rid of doors fully? I don't think we need doors in Call of Duty multiplayer at all, so hopefully going forward for the full release of the game, they decide to rework this and to either make them stay open or just not bother with them full stop. I will also give them props for the HUD in-game. I will say that's absolutely incredibly clean, and it reminds me of like a Black Ops 3 / Black Ops 4 feel. The nostalgia is kind of there for that, I will say. It's very clean, looks very fresh, and doesn't look anything like what we've had in recent years, which, again, changes good for Call of Duty, and to be honest, it's actually good to see these little design changes implemented. However, the UI in the menus is just the same as it has been for the last few years, really. It's all very convoluted and confusing. You've got to click through 1,000,001 different things to get the things. Yeah, it needs reworking and simplifying for me personally. It kind of looks no different to what we've had in Black Ops 6 and all the games before that. Onto Gunsmith, and in particular weapon levels and how you unlock attachments. Now, I'll say it before and I'll say it again. Modern Warfare 2, the newer one, did an awful lot wrong. But one thing it got right was the amount of weapon levels per weapon. I think we only had something like 25 weapon levels for that game. In Black Ops 7, there's like 40. For some weird reason, and for certain sites you've then got to use different weapons to then unlock those sites for that weapon. So it's a bit like you kind of took what's worse out of Modern Warfare 2 and then kind of built on that by saying, you know what, here's about 1,000,001 different weapon levels, when ultimately, going forward into the full game, there'll only be, what, 5 or 6 attachments that we all use because they're the meta attachments? I don't see the point in all these weapon levels anymore. And then also going on that, there's now different weapon prestiges where you unlock attachments because of weapon prestige, so there's even more weapon levels to do. And then there's things like overclocking kill streaks and special abilities and all that kind of stuff. Once again, this simple concept of create a class at its core should be very, very simple. And we're kind of just convoluting it and adding more stuff into it. And for me personally, Call of Duty is at its best when it's just simple to play, simple to pick up, simple just to enjoy. And it's just not. And that's because of this crazy UI in this Gunsmith and all these extra features they want to add in. And just, yeah, it's just a mess at times. Now, I've just got back up a 2-week holiday, so I've actually not played as much of this beta as maybe I would have wanted to. However, after playing it for the first time, I kind of didn't really want to play all that much more of it, so swings and roundabouts. So I didn't really experience the full sweat mode of the start of the beta. I only picked it up once the open beta opened, and I kind of could have played the open playlist where there's no skill-based matchmaking. So I haven't really experienced the full sweat force of this beta. However, I have played in both skill-based matchmaking lobbies and the open playlist where there was just based on ping for the most part. And I will say that, once again, this game is an absolute sweat fest across the board because, well, that's just Call of Duty these days, is it not? Skill-based matchmaking, those lobbies, obviously, extremely tight and tough matchmaking. You feel like they are just diamond ranked lobbies or whatever, even though they're not. So going forward in the full game, that needs toning down, or just removing from public playlists altogether. And then, because of the reaction to this level of tough skill-based matchmaking, obviously the developers announced that there will be an open playlist, which is just on classic matchmaking, where it uses ping and connection as the main factor for making games, and there isn't really much skill. So in these lobbies, I will say, actually, the game feels like a classic Call of Duty once again. There's some games where you absolutely fry out, and there are some games where you get absolutely spat on, and that's okay, I think, personally, for a Call of Duty multiplayer. I think that is what's expected from a Call of Duty multiplayer. However, this is its own dedicated playlist in the beta. Will this be in the full game at release, or is this just a kind of way of building hype for the game? And then going forward into the game at release, is that going to be its own dedicated playlist, or is it going to be how the matchmaking works full stop across the board? Because those two things are very different. So I would like to see some more clarity on that. However, it's also annoying, the fact of the matter is that it's took them for Battlefield 6 to be as hyped up as it is for them to actually make a change about this. This has been spoken about for years now, ever since Modern Warfare 2019, when it was really kind of introduced as the strict skill-based matchmaking system. And it's been talked about for years ever since then. Everyone said it's kind of killing the franchise. They've never made any changes until now. And, like, why now? I just don't get why we've missed out on so many good games that we've had. Cold War, Modern Warfare 3, those were very, very solid multiplayer games. Why have we had to miss out on that? And I had to play with strict skill-based matchmaking because they were so reluctant to change it. But all of a sudden, because it's competition, they now are having to change it. So as I said, I have not actually played that much of the beta. These are just my initial thoughts on it. I've seen a lot of people hype this up and say it's really good. I don't see it. I personally. I was never really a fan of the old school futuristic games, and I'm not really a fan of this futuristic setting either. And to be fair, this is a half-baked futuristic setting as well, because it's still somewhat boots on the ground with the fact you can jump off a wall. And I feel that's just a very poor effort of it. Either go whole hog futuristic, or don't bother at all. Obviously, Black Ops 7's main competition is going to be Battlefield 6. The hype for that game is at an all-time high right now as it drops in a couple of days' time. However, will that hype be warranted on launch? We'll have to wait and see. But based on both betas, I had a lot more fun playing the Battlefield 6 beta than Black Ops 7. Now, I'm going to hold my hands up and say that I'm not really a Battlefield player. I've mainly been a Call of Duty player. I have obviously played Battlefield in the past during the Xbox 360 days. However, when I was enjoying Battlefield 6's bit and doing really well in that game, I was having a really good time. And then when I was getting spat on in Battlefield 6, I was also having a really good time. It was so fun to play. As opposed to Black Ops 7, where if I'm frying the lobby, I'm like, yeah, okay, this is alright. And then when I'm not frying the lobby and I'm getting absolutely spat on, it's just a downright miserable experience across the board. And I will say that the movement and gunplay feels better in Black Ops 7 than it does in Battlefield 6. But I would probably rather play Battlefield 6 at this point because it just seems better across the board. I don't know what it is about that game. And I will say that I've not pre-ordered Black Ops 7, I've not pre-ordered Battlefield 6, and I'm probably not going to buy either on launch. It's just, I have no love massively for either game at this point. And that's quite a sad thing to say. So going forward into Black Ops 7, well, I've played Call of Duty since the dawn of time, basically. Since Call of Duty was invented, I have played Call of Duty. And I've played it pretty much religiously since COD 4. I dipped out a little bit during the futuristic years, and then I came back with a vengeance during Modern Warfare 2019. I've kind of played it religiously ever since. But I feel like this is the time where I'm like, this grind might be over for a year. It's not my game. It's not my cup of tea, I don't think. If you like it, I'm happy for you. If this is the game you've been wanting for years, then I'm glad, and I hope you have a really good year on Call of Duty. For me personally, I think I'm going to tap out. I don't like the multiplayer all that much, and given the fact there's going to be a lack of changes on Warzone, going forward. I don't know how much Warzone I'll be playing either. Let me know your thoughts on Black Ops 7 below, and I will see you all in the next one.